Hey guys, I just coming to you to walk down the street and tell you everything bad about moving to Florida. So let's get started about that. Well, you know what? I don't think we're going to do that. I am going to get some other glasses though so I can read what we're doing. But we are going to address the housing market and we're going to address it in the proper way. I'm not going to fill you full of stuff that's going to make you feel bad and to maybe mislead you on what the market's doing. That is to get clicks, that's to get views, that's to overexpose a channel for viewing purposes. I am an educator. I'm trying to help the folks that are trying to move to Florida, specifically Southwest Florida, give you as much information on what's really going on. And this entire report is loaded with stuff that's going to tell you if this is the time for you to be buying or not. I know there's a plenty of naysayers out there, and that's part of why I started with the sunglasses today because of a comment last week. So I truly am in this for you to help you along your way. So if there's something I can help you with, comment down below. I'll be happy to help out. I know there's a few requests out there that we've had over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be getting to them. I'm sorry that it's taking a little bit longer, but this housing stuff is super important right now for all of you who are in a position that you're not sure what to do. I'm going to tell you what's really going on, then you can decide for yourself. So stick around, hear everything that we've got for you because it's all going to play a part in this very important decision. Florida ranks sixth best state to live in the United States. You're probably wondering what's that based on. Well, you'll see here that they do. This was done by Wallet Hub, and they talk about affordability, economic opportunities, education, health, quality of life, and safety. So I think affordability, I'm going to show you how we actually do fit into everything well. Economic opportunity, all we've been talking about is growth. Education and health, we've got some of the best universities. You got UF, you got FSU, you've got even University of Central Florida. We've got down here FGCU, FSW, plenty of schools, plenty of state schools. And if you heard the video a couple videos back, you can go for a full year at FGCU for $24,000. Now, if you go into further programs that have more time behind them and you need to, go to school for a doctorate or something like that, obviously all bets are off, but anyway, let's keep going. Safety is also a big one, quality of life. Well, heck, look behind me, man. That sky was just a couple nights ago, sunset going in off the boat. Amazing. Looked like cotton candy in the skies. That's what we get here. So it's beautiful. So we'll take quality of life. We're going to get ding, ding, ding. We're going to get a good one for that. Um, Third place for income growth, we're top ranking restaurants per capita. So if you look at some of our bigger cities, we've got such an influx of folks from different countries, all kinds of different foods to sample. And even in our own area here in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Estero, Naples, there's always new things being added. So you'll have plenty of things to try out if you're a real foodie. Again, we're going to get to affordability and housing costs here in just a moment. But basically, with Florida, the strong economy, fourth largest in the US, 1.7 trillion gross state product. So we are doing really well in that regard. It also comes down here to say that Florida, number one state to retire for 2025. Oh, wait, I think I have something more for you on that. What is this? Yes, Wallet Hub. What's the best state for retirement? 2025. I think that says Florida. So once again, this is showing that the metrics they're using, they did all 50 states. There's 46 metrics like cost of living, access to in-home services, quality medical care, and crime rates. Well, I can tell you that it's going to be in this later on, but our crime rate here in Cape Coral went down a lot just in this last year. And it's not like it was bad to begin with. We are second safest city in the entire state for any city over 100,000 residents. So we're already doing really well, but it's gotten even better. And that's another reason why we hit a top ranking here on this survey. Okay, so as we go down here further, so as you can see, a couple of the other standout things is that Florida has a combination of senior-friendly financial policies. Well, I know that we do have also our homestead has a an additional add-on for seniors, and there's an additional one for widows and widowers. So there's a lot of things that even go in just towards property tax, but leisure opportunities, all kinds of things to do here. Well-funded senior programs, and that kind of pushed it to the top spot beating out Minnesota, Colorado, Wyoming, and South Dakota. You've heard about these places. A lot of people are flocking there, but you're going to see in a minute exactly how affordable these places are compared to Florida. And then you ask yourself, how much sunshine do I want for the year? Do I want just a little bit and a bunch of clouds and white stuff mixed in, or do I want sun all the time? I will take the sun. Anyway, We'll keep moving here because the US states and DC, I don't know why they separated DC out like that, but they did. But this is median home prices through July of 2025. And we're going to see Hawaii, California. We kind of expected them to be at the top. District Columbia, same thing. And again, Northwest, or North, excuse me, Northeast, Massachusetts, Washington. I think that's Washington State. However, let's see, the state of Washington. Yeah, Washington State, man, they're number four. And Jersey, we expect. Colorado, we expect. Utah, I was surprised by that. New Hampshire, I expect. Oregon, same thing. But as you keep working down the list, how far do we have to? 22. Number 22 is where Florida comes in. At 405,000 is the median. Well, we know that this is relatively accurate because we've been saying it's sitting right around the 419, 415. So at 405, yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of where we're coming in. So again, are we really not affordable? I mean, we're pretty much halfway for all the states. And the ones that are behind us, Alaska at 395 is 10,000 off. The literal median for the entire country is 370. So we're $35,000 off of that. Well, I think that yeah, never mind. You know where I stand on this. We're going to keep moving. Okay, now we're going to keep going. Least and most affordable US states. This one, I believe, is going to go in order. But one thing I do want to point out is most lenders use a 28 to 36% rule. And what that is they basically states that a max of 28% of the gross monthly income should be spent on the housing expenses. And they don't want to see any more than 36% that will be spent on debt payments and loan payments and credit cards and such. So it is kind of tying you in there tight. Since we already covered the 2836, I do want to show you something that was very interesting, and that is for an FHA. You can see FHA loans have a standard back-end debt to income ratio of 43%, not 36, right? However, the FHA guidelines can be more flexible for up to almost 57% with the back end ratios. Now, they are careful to also let you know that your credit score needs to be 620 or higher. Okay. And that back end DTI has to stay under the 57. They're stretching it just to get you there. But you do have to qualify at a better position. You have to be somebody that shows responsibility in paying off debts. And that's why they're looking at your credit score, and that's why they want it over 620. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Anyway, affordability by state. States with the lowest housing prices. Once again, last year, the fourth quarter last year, the median home price was 420, 419.2. So it did go up a little bit from where it was, and it looks like they are forecasting to get up to 426 by the second quarter of 26. So it is, the prices are projected to go higher. But as of right now, lowest price states. There's 10 of them. Not a single one says Florida, so we're going to move on. We don't need to even check that any further. But states with the most expensive house prices. And you can see Hawaii is one of the most expensive at 840,000. Increased 1.5%, 1.6% actually. So, and you can see another state that everybody knows expensive, California. There we go, 785. It's just that's what it is. So when somebody says that Florida is not affordable, I'm going to remind you there are probably at least a dozen or more. Well, we saw already. There's plenty more than that. There's 21 other states that have higher price on their median priced homes than Florida does. Anyway, if we keep going, there's 10 more states, and none of them says Florida. Again, these are the higher end, so we are not in the top 10 for expensive either. Investment returns, I'm not even going to get into this at this point because Florida, you'll see right down here that we have been considered one of the best places to invest for the future, and we're also considered a hot real estate market. And while you may be hearing in other places that the inventory is blowing up and that the prices are falling in the toilet, that's not true. We're actually also named as one of the boom towns. So if you're somebody that doesn't believe everything you hear, and you're somebody that has an open mind and is looking for a way to get ahead, I'm telling you, where things are right now, as we keep going through this, you're going to see we're in a pretty sweet situation for buyers that have already sold their home in another state where they could make more money, or you're coming from renting like D Turtle did on the last video, and you are going to be able to get yourself a nice situation. We're going to go through one of those situations in just a minute with one of our local builders, so hang tight. Economic factors, supply and demand. Well, we know we have the supply. Demand is a little down, but you know that Florida has a high demand as it is. So look out as all these changes come together. We're going to talk about rates here in just a second. When you see how this is coming together, you may want to schedule your flights to get down here sooner than later. Mortgage interest rates. Well, we know interest rates, they're all over the place. They can fluctuate in the course of a week numerous times. So let's not get too caught up in that. And there's something called a rate lock that you also have to know about, because getting a rate to a certain point doesn't mean anything if you can't lock it, right? Because it can fluctuate every single day until you lock it in. Be careful of your lock times. This is where you're going to talk to somebody like Brian and find out, okay, how much time do I need? And will my lock be good for that amount of time? Because if it's not, and you fall out of your lock and you have to readjust and the rates went up, you, my friend, are out of luck. That's why we have partners that we work with that know what they're doing so that you don't get stuck behind the eight ball. Employment and incomes, don't make any changes along the way. And then policies and programs. There are programs out there for first-time home buyers, and that's something that Brian would definitely be able to work through with you. But as far as all of that goes, this is just kind of where most affordable, least affordable really falls, and it isn't as negative as what you've been hearing out there. So let's keep rolling this. States where people spend the most and least on housing. Housing is the big topic, the big conversation, right? Even on this, where you're talking about spending the most on housing, and Florida's so horrible, everybody's running away. Why is everybody leaving Florida? No, they're not. In fact, we're number 13 on the most and least expensive housing list. So that means there's 12 other states, and one of them, New York, is barely higher than us. And Rhode Island, New Jersey, they're barely below us. So really, you can see we're still going to settle pretty much into that 20s range, which is this is where we were on the other list. So it's right there. That's all I'm going to say. Once again, Florida, how not affordable are we? All right, so now we have questions being asked about when could the mortgage rates realistically drop below 6% again? And this is what I thought was interesting, because we can see that the 30-year fixed started the year just over 7. And we've had some adjustments that keep us right around 6.75 on average. So you can see not big changes. Everybody's looking for this change under 3%. It's not happening. I don't know how many times this needs to be said. That was unprecedented. To expect that again is going to be, again, you might as well look for a unicorn and see if you can get some money out of him. So basically, they give a quick rundown of this also. Economic signals will likely need to change before before you see the sub sixes. So for mortgage rates to come down below 6%, unemployment is going to need to be much higher, or a geopolitical crisis, much larger than we've seen in recent years, will have to occur. So those things aren't happening. And his final take on this was it would take really bad news to drive them into the fives, which is historically rare as it is. That's what you need to know. Rates, where we're sitting in the sixes, that should look pretty sexy to a lot of people. But unfortunately, that memory is just too short. We want that 3%. Now, why mortgage rates remain high? Well, the Federal Reserve obviously plays a part in it. Inflation pressures, that's hanging out there. So tariffs are going to be part of the discussion as well, because that's the overall economics. Construction bottlenecks, I don't know about that because I haven't heard a lot of that in our area. We still don't seem to have a problem getting the supplies to build the homes. There's many homes that are still under construction even as of today. And there's no slowing down as far as I've heard. We have new apartment buildings going up. We have new complexes for entertainment coming up. We have this new fast tracks. I can't wait for this thing to open in Fort Myers. It is going to be a indoor go-kart and arcade kind of a setup, and it's right over there by Top Golf in Fort Myers. So when that thing opens, I promise you, I'm going to rig up some kind of camera or something, and we're going to get out there and fly on the tracks and show you another opportunity to do something completely different here in Southwest Florida. Now, here's some things some tips to lower your mortgage rate. So first of all is improve your credit score. Make some payments, pay some stuff off, and that's where the reduced debt to income ratio comes from. So if you can start paying things down, your score will increase. Or make purchases and pay them off right away. Just keep doing that. Make that your habit. It can be something small. I'm not talking about going out and spending $1,500 and paying it right off. Go out and make some purchases. Purchase a new dress, purchase a new pair of shoes, purchase a purse, whatever it is. But know that you have the money to pay it off because those quick transactions where you're charging and paying off, charging and paying off, it will help your credit score. Also, shop around and increase your down payment. Higher money down, lower monthly payment. That's just what it is. And then there it is about the locking. Okay, this locking thing, we need to really, you have to be in close communication with your lender. They'll tell you exactly when to do the lock, and many locks can be 30 to 60 days, so you should be fine. Most lenders can get things done in that amount of time. I know Brian can for sure, but we're going to address that all when we start working together. Remember, again, I am a real estate agent in Southwest Florida, so if you would like any other communications outside of what you're getting on these videos, call, text, email. You can use the Zoom app. And like we're doing here on the camera, we can have a meeting together, see each other's faces. And also, we have an app that you can use, and it will help you search properties in our area and make a list of properties for yourself. But here's what I wanted to show you. Coast and Homes. This is not the only builder that's doing this stuff. I think I have another one here I can show you. But what they're doing here now, this is one that's a little bit different. There's a total amount of money that they're saying is up to $20,000 in closing cost credits and prepaids that they're going to allow through the end of the month. And with that, you can see the different homes, the different locations. Here you're under 300 for these brand new homes. Yes, 12 to 1400 square feet. And 1400 square feet with 4 bedrooms, those are going to be tight. So once again, as I said so many times previously, just because we have a ton of inventory doesn't mean it fits everybody. How many of you would be happy living in 1200 square feet? I mean, that's a condo in most cases. How many of you live in a condo currently? If you do, pull yourself out of that vote. I want people that are in single family homes at 1400 square feet with 4 bedrooms. You tell me how comfortable that's going to be. Anyway, we're going to keep going. The point to all this is they're doing a buy down on the rates. First year 299, second year 399, third year 499, and then every remaining year 599. So, what this is allowing you to do, I know most of you are probably sitting there saying, well, it's still going to be 6% when it's done. 6% still better. But here's the other thing you're missing. You've got essentially 4 years. Let's say 3 years. Be conservative. Those first 3 years, you're getting a discount. Do you think things might change in 3 years that would give you the opportunity to get your rate down? Possibly. So this is where you're buying time. You're getting 3 years to wait through that. What's going to happen in 3 years? Number one, your homestead's going to kick in. So you're going to save some money on taxes. That's going to help balance you out when the rate adjusts back up. The other thing that you have to consider too is that you can refinance after the 3 years are done. If the rates have come down, you may find that you settle in somewhere like that. But again, the 299, 399 thing is super, super assertive. I don't see us getting there even 3 years from now, but I'm not going to say it can't happen. I'll say unlikely, but use the time in between to improve your situation so that if you can refinance, that it's going to be all set up for you. Underwater mortgages are climbing in Florida and Texas. Okay, this is another very misleading headline. And the reason I say that is you can look right here, and they will talk about places like Punta Gorda, Florida. They're supposed to be, also one of the big places where there's been corrections. And yeah, granted, I'll give it to them, 18.6% adjustment. So, okay, we're seeing that. But here's the part that you might not know. 1% is the share of outstanding homeowner mortgages with negative equity, meaning underwater, in April of 2025. That is what we're looking at. Compared to, and this is for all those people that want to compare the actual Great Recession that we had versus what we're dealing with now. Not even the same thing, because back then, 23% of the people were underwater in their mortgages. That is huge in the difference between them. So we're not going to talk about underwater properties, but I will give you another example of why it's still not a problem. Just hold tight. they're asking the question, why on a nationally aggregated basis are there still not many homeowners underwater despite home price declines in some markets? Well, first of all, we know that we have some of the highest prices to all time. These are some of the highest prices we've seen. We're also seeing amortization of ultra low mortgage rates that have been around for a while. I mean, some of these people have fixed rates in the 2 to 3%. I do know all about that, so that is truthful. There's fewer buyers actually purchased at the peak or in correction markets. And yeah, I think that that might be partially true. Even in the boom to correction markets like Cape Coral, Florida, and Austin, Texas, only a small share of homeowners bought at the absolute top of the market in spring of 2022. So that leads to limited exposure at the peaks and helps to explain why negative equity so far hasn't been a big problem, even in some of the hardest hit metros. This is what we've been trying to say. If you don't have one of these problems, it can't change the housing market. So if we don't have any real problem with underwater mortgages, then that's keeping those people in those homes. I wanted to come to this one for one particular reason. Zillow CEO sounds the alarm on a worrying trend rattling the housing market. And what they were trying to bring the point to here is again, they're still looking at the housing market facing the same challenges plagued by the market since 22, which is again, lots of inventory, higher prices, higher rates. It's all there. None of it's really changing as fast as we'd like it. But there is something that's very interesting about this because, okay, so the Zillow CEO is saying that some of these challenges, this does not necessarily apply to all markets. You have to remember this is a national report. And what they're basically saying is that the tariffs have significantly raised the cost of building materials. Well, I think we just reported that a couple weeks ago. That's not true. 7% of your home is actually imported and would have tariffs on it. Everything else can be sourced here in the States. Um, so is there a slowdown in new construction housing starts? Maybe for the rest of the country, but not for Florida. If you go anywhere in Florida right now, you are going to see construction. It is ridiculous. Every time you turn around, you found another project under construction. So that's why when they're over here now talking about the National Association of Home Builders, finding that the single family projects, let me see if I can highlight this for you, dropped 6% between June 24 and June 25. So over a year, 6% reduction in the number of single family homes being built. And apartment construction projects were down 18%. Now, once again, we've just built probably 4 or 5 buildings just in Cape Coral alone in the last year or two. And that's not even putting in there Fort Myers, North Fort Myers, Estero, Bonita, Naples, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. It's not counting any of these places. So once again, I think that this is very, very skewed depending on where you live. I'm just letting you know here in Florida, things are booming and banging, and you're going to hear something else here coming up that's also going to confirm what I'm talking about when it comes to this new construction and what the job market looks like based upon that. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out on this article is that um, there is a staggering 72% of outstanding mortgage debt that has interest rates below 5%. That's nearly 2 points below the current level. What this is telling us is this is why nobody's leaving their house right now. This is why the market can't get moving. This is why there's no jump start to correcting this, because if you're under 5%, you don't want 2 extra points. And there is somewhere in here, I hope I can still find it, where it showed the difference of those 2% percentage points and what it means to your overall interest as you go through your loan. All right, so this is the equity positions. What percentage of Florida homeowners have equity in their home in 2025? So what this is going to do is tell us from the fourth quarter of 2024, 60.7% of mortgage residential properties in South Florida were equity rich. And that meant that the homes were worth at least 50% more than their outstanding mortgage. It was a slight decrease from 62%. But the other metros throughout the state go as follows: Jacksonville, 43.9%, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, hey, there we are, 50.6%, Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton, 52%. And we go down from there, Orlando, Kissimmee, 48, Tampa, St. Pete, 49. So you can see that the highest, obviously, is Miami at just about 65%. In the first quarter of 2025, Florida experienced a 3% decrease in the percentage of equity rich homeowners. It led the nation in underwater homes, where we owe more on the mortgage than the current value. However, this is cyclical. If you're not trying to move, it's not that big of a deal. All right, so one of the things that's going on is an initiative throughout Florida, Live Local developers. And what they're doing is they are creating affordable housing throughout the state. And it is called it's part of the Live Local Act, and I just reported on the millions of dollars they had in this program. It is something that's for the entire state, so you're going to see these projects happening around the state. The funny thing about this is only a percentage of the properties on these buildings for affordable housing is for affordable housing. I'd say maybe half of the units. The other half is going to be just at regular market prices. So when you hear affordable living projects or affordable living buildings or affordable living neighborhoods, just know that it's not everybody, it's a percentage. And this is why Cape Coral Fort Myers, we are a top area for construction jobs. So if you're somebody that is a tradesperson, if you're somebody that's been in construction for a number of years, if you're somebody that just like to work outdoors, hey, here's your opportunity. But you can see here that we are definitely kicking it when it comes to that. Florida is ranked 13th nationally with 7.4% of its workforce, and that's almost 650,000 employees working in construction. Here, let's highlight that. Working in construction, and it's above the national average of 6.1%. So we are still pulling in more workers in that field than anywhere else. All right, here we go. Cape Coral sees 28% drop in crime in the first half of 2025. This is awesome. As I said already, we were the second safest city throughout the state with 100,000 or more residents in the city. And this just further confirms how safe it is to live in this area when we're comparing ourselves to everywhere else in the state. That's a little bit about the housing, Southwest Florida, how you fit into it, how it fits your world, and hopefully we can get everything together and tied up nice and neatly for you. But if it's not time for you, that's great too. Keep following along, listening, and if you didn't get everything you needed out of this video, check out one of these other videos. And if that didn't do it for you, do what everyone else is doing. Call, text, email, get on the app, do a Zoom call, whatever it is, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.